Part 1, the ultimate secrets of center to edge aiming. The most misunderstood aspect of center to edge aiming is the pivot. And more specifically, the half ball pivot. Now, why would that be? Because when someone hears the word pivot, they automatically think to their observation of professional players, and there was no pivot. They saw no pivot. But the truth of the matter is that many of the professional players, now hear this carefully, are engaged in half ball pivots. I'll say that again. Many, if not most, of your professional players that you are observing are engaged in half ball pivots. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot a series of 8 shots. I want you to observe me very carefully as I do this, and just watch my routine from ball address, all the way to finish. So, shot number 1. Okay, shot number 2 is going to occur from the same position. Shot number 3. Watch very carefully as I shoot each shot. Shot 4. Shot 5. Shot 6. This will occur from the same location. Shot 7. And the last shot. Okay, as you observe those 8 shots, I'll give you a little information about the shots. 4 of the shots were the traditional method of playing pool, as taught by, ghost ball, contact point, fractions, that kind of thing. 4 of the other shots, the 4 remaining shots, were half ball pivots. Were you able to tell which shots were the half ball pivot? Were you able to tell which ones were the traditional way of shooting the shots? Probably not. Some of the more astute people with CTE that have been keeping up with my teachings might be able to pick out the differences, rather quickly. But in general, the point I'm making is that the half ball pivot was a very, very subtle occurrence. Now, let's talk just a little bit about the half ball pivot and the professional player. And in this part one, I want to give you a definition of what the half ball pivot is. Now, and then we're going to do some of the finer points of this in part two. So this is sort of an introduction to the, really and truly the best secrets in CTE Pro 1. I'm just going to set up a zero angle shot here to the best of my ability, using an exaggerated cue ball here and then just your typical object ball. Now, when a player learns to play, the instruction is typically, get locked in on the center of the cue ball directly to the object ball contact point. In this case, it's sort of easy because I have an objective set up here. I'm set up center to center. So it's normal to learn in this fashion. But when you watch the professional player playing on a straight in shot, do you really see the professional player getting directly behind the center and moving in to directly the center of the cue ball? I don't see that. I'm not saying it doesn't occur. What you're going to see a professional player doing is playing from an offset, a visual offset. So I'm going to give you a couple of visual offsets here with this example, and we're going to get a little bit more into the definition of a half ball pivot. So as I set up on this shot, not from a center to center perspective, but I'm going to be slightly to this side of the ball, and I'm seeing the cue ball object ball relationship from an offset, which means if I look directly at the center of the cue ball here from this perspective, my tip is slightly outside of center. That means in order to make this ball, by the time I go from ball address into my full stance, look what happens. My cue is actually going to be turned into this position there. So from the offset position, my cue turned where? This is key. My cue turned into center cue ball. Let's define that in a different way. My cue turned into half of the cue ball. The pivot was from outside of center into half of the cue ball, which is the center cue ball line or axis. Now I'll show you another position that you'll see professional players in. Professional players can be found on this side of the cue ball, for example. And I can shoot a beautiful straight in shot from this perspective. Now, as I look more carefully at this cue ball object ball relationship and analyze it, the center, the true center, has my tip slightly on this side of the cue ball this time. So in order to make my movement from ball address to full stance, the cue is ultimately in some way going to have to turn to center cue ball. It's going to have to turn into half of the cue ball. Thus, we have the half ball pivot. The half ball pivot, there's been some confusion with that. The half ball pivot is not so literal in the sense that we put our tip halfway out here at the edge of the cue ball and turn it to center. I could do a Pro 1 visual sweep and put my cue out here and turn it into center, and I guess I could say I turned the distance of 20 different object balls. So that was a 20 object ball pivot. No, it wasn't. It was a half ball pivot. Why? Because there was a rotation, a turn, a pivot, a sweep, if you will, that resulted in the tip being turned into half of the cue ball. Thus we have the half ball pivot. Now, I'm going to pick up with part 2 shortly, but playing this game is an evolution. Pool is a visual, physical game. We don't always have the words to explain what we're doing, but the eyes, the body, give it enough time, are going to start into this rotation aspect of connecting with the geometry of the table. That doesn't mean that there's going to be words to explain it, but there's a very, very strong visual intelligence at work to unlock how this game is played. Well, it's no secret that it can take years. It can take thousands and thousands of hours for that to occur. What is unusual about center to edge aiming is that now there are words that can describe what is occurring at the highest levels of pool visually and physically. So, a player can learn the game starting off with this center to center straight in alignment. As the player progresses, the offset is going to start occurring. Now, so the offset can find the player just bending into center cue ball as such, or turning in to center cue ball from this direction, like so. But there's more finer points to this. There's really more secrets to this, and I'm going to share those with you in part 2. Thank you.